everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Judy and you're watching Running Sew and Sew, and welcome back to everybody. And if you're new here, it's great to have you with me, and if you fancy subscribing, there's somewhere there is a button. It's either here or it's here, and I can't remember which side it's on, and I say that every time. So where am I? I have just run down this beautiful field and I'm about to run along our village beck, which you can see just here. I have got the girls attached to me. I don't know how far I've gone. I'm actually in the process of measuring my run, and I have auto pause on Strava, so I've had to go through a stile. There it is. It's the worst style. You have to step into it. Oh, you have to step into it from the field side, through it, and it sort of like goes 90 degrees on itself, and I have to untackle myself with the waist harness. I have to sort of undo the bungee and pull the girls through. So I am going to run down this bit here. I'm going to put my phone away in a minute. I'm going to tell you what I'm listening to. I am listening to the Love to Sew podcast. I do subscribe to it via Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description box. I love the Love to Sew podcast. I really do. It's just fantastic to listen to. And today I'm trying to extend my run, so I'll join you at the end. I've just finished my run. I'm not home. I'm a long way from home actually. But I was aiming to do, a friend, Pam, told me that to improve my running I needed to increase my distance by 10%. So I was going for 5.5 kilometres. I actually did 6.1. So I'm feeling really, really proud. And look what came up. Oh my gosh, I've done 700 Strava activities. That's pretty good going, isn't it? So I'm going to make it 701, and when I get to the petrol station I'm going to record my walk home. So plans when I get home, get the soup boiling, quick shower, finish off some sewing and finish recording my vlog. So I'll see you when I get. So you've just seen me sewing together the first of my seams on my Trudy turtleneck. I'm just going to check under the arms, and it did catch it. I'm just going to redo under the arms, because when I was doing under the arms I suddenly realised, I looked at my camera and it said the battery was flat, and I thought, I knew I was going to film. I put the battery on to charge when I went out for a run, and it hasn't charged. So I am just going to redo under the arms, and I'm just going to show you what I think is the best feature on my overlocker, the presser foot lever. Isn't that amazing? It's in such a good place. But it won't, just a minute. I am promising you, I am pressing the foot pedal. In fact, so much so am I going to show you I'm pressing the foot pedal. Look at this for a safety feature. The presser foot's up, it won't move. It's got an automatic turn off. Love that feature. Normally it's just when you open the doors at the front. So I am just finishing off my adorable Trudy turtleneck, and I thought I'd just come on and show you that I've had a little move around in the sewing room. I have literally moved my overlocker, I can call it my acclaim, you all know what I've got. My overlocker was here. I've just moved it slightly into the corner so I can get my chair in really comfortably. I'm not right over the top of it, so I'm not hurting my back. But I've popped my little cover stitch here at the back, so when I need to use it I can push the overlocker back a little bit, and then I've got a little bit more space to get into the cover stitch. But I wanted to show you the new thing I've discovered on my my little cover stitcher, and that is doing the one stitch chain, and it's revolutionary. It's like just doing one stitch and it just does what looks like a running stitch, and it is absolutely beautiful. Not the two stitch finish that I usually do, but just one single stitch. So let me finish this and I shall be back. Just before I went upstairs, when I was sewing together the Trudy turtleneck, I mentioned to you that I discovered a trick on my cover stitch. Now I knew it was a function that my cover stitch had. I'm really sorry I'm at the side because I really want to talk to you about my cover stitch, which I absolutely love. Now I've had this for quite a while now, and each time I get it out I feel as if I'm getting more and more and more sort of used to using it. I'm very fortunate. I've got the basic cover stitch by Baby Lock, and that is literally what it's called. And when the lovely Adam from Adam Sews came up to see me on his way to Sewtoon, oh my gosh, that could be up to 2 or 3 years ago now, Adam came in and he went, "That's a brilliant machine, Judy, it's made by Juki." So we all know that Adam is a Juki ambassador, so for him to say that to me, I felt really quite precious. It was a lovely thing for him to say to me. But apart from doing the standard cover stitch to finish off your garments, it also has what you call a chain stitch effect, and that is where you put in one needle. I'm going to go behind it. I'm really not got myself completely set up to do this properly. Can you see I've just got one needle and I've got my thread in the lower looper here. So when I made my Rasac last week, I finished the pockets. It needed a single line of straight stitching for top stitching down the side of the pockets, and I thought, I haven't got navy blue Mariflex, but I have got the chain stitch function on the cover stitch, so I went for it. So I have got, I've threaded it up again for chain stitching. So when they say chain stitching, it means that on the back it looks like a chain stitch. And for those of you that don't know what a chain stitch is, I'm not going to assume everybody knows what I mean. I will go through in a minute and I will do a chain stitch embroidered, and I will put the little video in. I will slip it in, hopefully just across the top here. But when you do a chain stitch for embroidery, on one you do your chain on the top, and underneath you should have a fairly even, what we call back stitch. We'll do a back stitch as well. A back stitch looks like a standard running stitch, but when you do the chain stitch on the cover stitcher, you have the back stitch, i.e. the running stitch on the top and the chain on the bottom. Let me show you. I love this new setup because I can just tip my back to you here like this, and I've got my lovely cover stitcher, and I could just switch to my overlocker, and then I can switch back to my sewing machine. So now you can either with a cover stitch run to the end, or you can turn your balance wheel, put the needle in the upright position, lift up your presser foot, and then it's a little pinch to the side and pull, and then this is not like the acclaim where it locks. Whoops, that's my phone slipping down. I have got a thing here. And all being well, it hasn't sewn. So let's try again. Have we not done something right? There we go. Now then, as you could see, I went wrong. It didn't sew. Sorry, I didn't mean to shout. It didn't sew the first time. And it has sewn the second time. And I know it's sewn, but it's sewn so tightly down, you can't see the stitch. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to lengthen the stitch, and I'm going to do it again. This is why I emphasize the need to do a tester. Whether it's on your sewing machine with a standard viscose, whether it's on your overlocker or any cover stitch or any machine you choose to sew with, before you do that first line of stitching on your garment, do a test. More so with these overlocker cover stitch machines, because they can be a tad temperamental. So I've just got a scrap out. It's not the fabric I'm going to use, but I can now see I've got a lovely, lovely stitch going through. And all that happens is it doesn't necessarily engage the first time round. So the first one, as you can see, produced just a piece of thread. The second one produced quite a tight stitch, but on the back you can see there is a chain. Now if you want, you can have the chain on the top. You don't have to have it on the bottom. And then here you go. It's just a really simple straight stitch. And it's just another stitch that these machines will do. A chain looper. I love the effect on the back. Do you know, actually, I'm very tempted to do it backwards and have that on the top because it's really quite pretty. And I'm doing it on my Trudy turtleneck. So to get the stitch in, oh, I love it when the acclaim's got that. That's the one thing, if I could move the presser foot lever to this side, I really would. And I know that the more elaborate baby locks have got the automatic foot thing that you have on your sewing machine. If you're lucky enough to have an automatic presser foot on your sewing machine. So here we go, we're going round. As I say, slow and steady, just tap your foot pedal because overlocker foot pedals do go quite quickly. And I just tap it. Sometimes I'll put it up here and use my hand like this. Let me show you. You don't want me to think I don't do it. You see my hand? And if you're doing something really carefully, if you just use your hand, you can get a tap tap. And that tap tap allows you to get more control on what it is that you're sewing. And especially when you're sewing the cuffs, it really does help. That's one. Beautiful. Oh no, I shall come back to you when I've done them all. Now all I'm left to do is to take off all the ends and then I can try it on. And I will do that in a minute because I made it to go underneath this lovely sweatshirt. Now, I have now achieved the effect I wanted when I bought this lovely soft furry back fleece type fabric from First for Fabrics. I'll put it in the description box below. What I wanted to do was to have the drew, and then underneath the drew, which is quite roomy, I wanted to slip a Trudy turtleneck, and I'm wearing it with, and do forgive me because I've got a pair of black leggings on, so you have to forgive me, these are not me main leggings because when I can get 2 pairs for £16 at New Look, I am not going to waste my time making leggings. I wear these sorts of leggings in the winter with usually furry tights underneath them to keep me warm at school. You'll have to forgive me, I have got thread on them because I have been sewing, but let me tip it back up. This was the effect I wanted. A nice, warm, sort of smart outfit to wear to school. I have a gilet that I can slip over the top and I know that I will be warm. So, the Trudy turtleneck, I will show you very quickly, is, here it is. It is, I think, one of the loveliest base layers around. It hugs you, it clings into you, and it will make me feel warm when I am outside with the children at school. And that's what my Trudy turtleneck would look fantastic under a freezer blouse in this fantastic fabric which we got in the Beyond the Pink Door box. I don't want to open it up anymore because I don't want to give you away what this is, because this is my pattern test. But I want to make a Frida blouse because I think a Frida blouse in this with the Trudy turtleneck underneath would be a great wear for school, and then it just sort of gives me a smartish look. I am going to put this back on because my heating has only just come on today. I'm still a little bit chilly, and as I say, this was the Drew by Tilly and the Buttons. A chain stitch, you come up from the top like so. I never knot the back of my embroidery, I always leave it loose and I just hold the end of the thread in place. So you go in at the top and you do a tiny little stitch and you have the thread underneath your work and your thread will go underneath your needle. At this point, when you've got it underneath your needle, you need to put your hand on top of your needle, push your needle through and give it a gentle pull, as so, and you will see that the thread is unwinding, and as it disappears you can pull it and you will be left with a little loop like so, and it looks like a chain. You can alter the size of your chain by pulling the thread underneath, and as you can see, that will pull it tight, looking like the one on the cover stitch. So I'm going to leave it tight so it looks like the cover stitch and do another one. So go in where the needle came out, do my next stitch, pull the needle through with the over the top. Can you see there's the thread? Here's the needle, hold it still, pull it through. My thread is over the top of the thread underneath, pulling gently, and as I said before, you can have a wider bulbous chain or you can have a narrow one. You need to try and keep them the same size as the ones before. So let me do another one. In at the top, next to where your needle came out, and if you can get it in exactly the same hole, it will be even better. I'm doing this in the, there you go, there's my little running stitch on the back through to my chain on the front. There you go. I hope that helps you. Most fantastic sewing week. I appear to, in my own mind, have sewn every single day because I'm keeping a sewing journal this year. And I'm writing down what it is that I sew every single day in my beautiful notebook that was given to me as a Christmas present. And I am up to date with what I have been sewing up until the 18th of January. I have filled it in and I need to go and fill in today's sewing, and there has been quite a bit. And sometimes I've literally written down what it is I've done. So when I look back and I think, my gosh, I've done no sewing, I can think, oh, well, hold on a minute. I cut the rib bits out for the Drew when it arrived from First for Fabrics and started to assemble the Trudy turtleneck. So I was doing jobs simultaneously. So I can actually look back and think that on that day, I think was Wednesday, that I've started to do those jobs. And as I've done my pattern test, I've written down what I did for the pattern test on certain days, and whether or not I did the embroidery or not, because the embroidery is very nearly up to date. It is, I think, I am halfway through a couple of days for this week, and then I will be up to date. And here it is growing. I can bring it in a little bit. I will come closer. It will get closer. And you can see actually this bit here says, it says Lotto, and that's because I need to put a number 5 over the top. I want a 5er on the Lotto. And then here, that was me trying to simulate a French seam. And that's a wine glass because I had a glass of wine, because I'd done some thinking about something. So it is very much up to date. Also onto here, next to the wine glass, is going to be some hot chocolate. The wine glass was Friday, the hot chocolate was Thursday, the sewing was Wednesday, the thinking was Tuesday. Now, can you see here? This is a needle and thread going through a very simple church. Yesterday I went to the Harrogate Sewcial with Pam, and we met some other lovely ladies when we got there. And Harrogate Sewcial is a really small new Sewcial, and it takes place in the Methodist, well, it takes place in the Methodist Church building, but it's one of the free churches that has a room at the back. And it's run by the lovely Ruth Wilson in Harrogate, and it's in the area of Starbeck, and it is a lovely little Sewcial. So if you are in that sort of North Yorkshire area that you can get to, so anybody, you know, within an hour, you're looking at places like Easing, Wold, Selby, Pontefract, Featherstone. You could go from Brighouse, from Leeds, from Bradford, going up North Easing, Wold, probably Ripon, Pateley Bridge, out towards Hawes. You could probably get into Harrogate really easily. Those are just some places, but I always look an hour, hour and a half max for a day out, and it's quite inexpensive. It is only £20 for the day, and Ruth makes the most delicious cakes for us. So I had the most fantastic day, and I spent my day quilting. So if I wasn't doing enough for the year, I joined the Debbie Shaw Half Yard Club. This was last weekend I joined it, And she does a block of the month quilt every single year. And this is block number 1. Now it's meant to make the little white bits stick out. And so I spent a long time yesterday working on this particular piece of the quilt because it joins this part to this part, and you need to make certain that these two bits here line up. So can you see here I've got my, I used some tailor's chalk to draw some lines, and it joined up the quilt. Because the first time I did it, I didn't do that. So that is block 1 of the block of the month quilt from the Debbie Shaw Half Yard Sewing Club. I will, of course, put the link in the description box below. It's a small online sewing community. You pay a small fee per month and you can access the patterns that she has online, and I thought I'll do it for a year and see how I do, and if I enjoy it I'll do it for a second year. So far so good, I'm loving it. I have another project in there which I would like to do, and if you remember I started to do the swoon quilt. Now I have plans to do the proper swoon quilt, but unfortunately the bits I'd got were going to make a much bigger block than I thought. But this thing I want to make is a quilt block keeper. So as I make these, I can lay them flat. In fact, what I'm going to do is now is from here, I'm going to take these finished blocks and I'm going to go and put them in my spare room so I know that they are safe. But this is a lovely quilt block keeper, and you can put your blocks in it as you make them up. Which leads me beautifully onto the other bit of sewing that I did yesterday. And that was to do week 3 of the block of the week quilt. Now again, I had a lot of learning because I learnt a different technique. I learnt to put two squares together, cut them to make 4 smaller squares, each with 2 triangles in. This was a technique I didn't use last time I was quilting. And we call it quilting, don't we? But it's not actually quilting. That isn't quilting. Because quilting is when you have 3 layers joined together with a stitch. This is the patchwork bit, the patchwork piecing, the piecing of the topper. And do not forget that the top of a quilt can be one piece of fabric and the design is what is your quilting. So this patchwork part of the topper here, I did not use this technique where you have the 2 squares and you cut it on the diagonal. But I did it, and as I did these together I laid them out so that I knew how they would go, and this little bit in the middle for some reason wasn't the right size, and I checked it in the book and I had cut it the right size, and I think that the measurement is slightly out because when I cut it the same size as the other squares it fitted. So I've made a note in the book so that whoever uses the book after me knows that that is not quite right. And then obviously you've seen weeks 2 and week 1, which are now going to go and sit nicely in my spare room. Otherwise I'm going to pull the book out of alignment. What I did do as well was to start week 4, and there's week 4 coming together. And week 4 is English paper piecing, and that is where you tack the fabric around a piece of paper. I'm starting to now join these 2 pieces together with the tiniest of little stitches across this line here. Can you see? I'm going to use this middle. So I'm just starting to join these 2 pieces together with the tiniest little stitches across here. Once those 2 pieces have been joined together, I will join these 2 pieces together, and then I will join the 4 together, and once they're joined together I will give them a really thorough iron, take out the paper, and then I will applique them down. So that is going to be an extra hand stitching job for me during this week. So that's another job to do this week. So I have to say I'm really enjoying this, and I am really enjoying the embroidery. To say that I've managed to do these 2 garments this week as well has made me feel absolutely fantastic. I did finish this in the middle of the week and it was just so delightful. I actually put this picture, and I'm going to use it as a thumbnail, of myself on Instagram on Friday night saying, is anybody else doing cozy sewing? Because I had this lovely new cozy jumper on. So this week going ahead, Frida blouse, top of the list, because then I can say I've done January's box from Beyond the Pink Door. I've made it and finished it, which would be the most fantastic feeling to think that I've actually finished the makes of the fabric from the first box of 2025. Whether I can keep that one up is another matter altogether, because when I've made my Frida blouse, the next thing I want to tackle again is the gilet, and I think I've got the gilet down as a big project for next weekend because I would love to get that finished. I do know that I need to focus on getting a zip for it, and I will be looking online this week to try and source myself a zip. And then I have to decide if I'm going to use that pattern to make up my lovely Fabric Godmother fabric. So if you are new and you've not been to me before, if you are new and you haven't seen what I was doing before Christmas, I was attempting to make a gilet, and I have a zip here. Woohoo! I have a zip. But this zip I will need to cut down. So I might keep going with this because this is very much a wearable toile. So it's actually quite good to use the zip I've got. But it had the most interesting welt pockets. So I will put a link up here to one of the videos earlier when I was doing the welt pockets on this, because they were a challenge. I'm not going to say they weren't. So it would be lovely to finish this gilet. And just to remind you all, I bought a cheaper wadded fabric from my local Boys. Those of you that don't know Boys, it's a fabric shop based in the north of England. And also from Boys, I bought this very cheap cotton, polycotton, which says Hawaii all over it, to remind me of last summer, and that is the lining. Now this is an I Am Patterns, it's the Myra gilet. I am enjoying doing it because it is a challenge, and I love a sewing challenge, but they slow you down, and there's nothing wrong with having a sewing challenge. And linking, oh yes, before I go on any further, and the fabric I want to make a gilet in is this beautiful, you've all seen it, it's been all over, lots of vloggers, lots of sewists all over Instagram. It is the Maggie quilted fabric from the Fabric Godmother, and of course I had to have it because Maggie is my dog. Now, an involved make is good for the brain, and it makes you think. Now, alongside that, doing your patchwork piecing, such as I described here with this one, and having to match up these lines that I drew on with the chalk marker, doing your accuracy in something small like that that is easy to take apart, those skills are transferable to when you're making something more complicated like a gilet or using a welt pocket within your sewing. So please, please, please don't be frightened to pick up a piece of patchwork. You know, I've heard people say, I don't know if I'm right with my colours. I don't know if I've got these colours right. It looks fine like that. I can see what I'm trying to do. I can see what I'm trying to achieve. I don't mind. I'm having a go, and I'm using up the fabric that I've got lying around my house. I've not bought any new fabric for this quilt yet, and I don't intend to. I want to try and use all the patterns that I've got. The one thing I have decided I would buy is blenders, because I love the Bumbleberry blenders by Lewis and Irene. I really do. Now then, I hope you've all had a lovely week yourselves of sewing and have achieved a lot. I love this idea that I've put in place for myself, where I've got hand sewing, I've got machine sewing, I've got a bit of patchwork, I've got my dressmaking, I've got my embroidery, because it's all the art of using a needle and thread, which after all is what sewing is. So I hope you have the most adorable sewing week, and I look forward to joining you all again next Sunday. Take care then. Bye bye.